Chapter 42 of 10 Years Later. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 10 Years Later by Alexandre Dumas. Chapter 42. The King's Uneasiness. Let us leave poor La Valliere, who had fainted in the arms of her two companions, and return to the precincts of the Royal Oak. The young girls had hardly run 20 paces when the sound which so much alarmed them was renewed among the branches. A man's figure might indistinctly be perceived, and putting the branches of the bushes aside, he appeared upon the verge of the wood, and perceiving that the place was empty, burst out into a peal of laughter. It is almost superfluous to add that the form in question was that of the young and handsome cavalier, who immediately made a sign to another, who thereupon made his appearance. "What, sire," said the second figure, advancing timidly, "has your majesty put our young sentimentalists to flight?" "It seems so," said the king, "and you can show yourself without fear. Take care, sire, you will be recognized. But I tell you, they are flown. This is a most fortunate meeting, sire, and if I dared offer an opinion to your majesty, we ought to follow them. They are far enough away by this time. They would quickly allow themselves to be overtaken, especially if they knew who were following them. What do you mean by that, coxcomb that you are? Why, one of them seems to have taken a fancy to me, and another compared you to the sun. The greater reason why we should not show ourselves, Saint Aignan. The sun never shows itself in the night time. Upon my word, sire, your majesty seems to have very little curiosity. In your place, I should like to know who are the two nymphs, the two dryads, the two hamadryads, who have so good an opinion of us. I shall know them again well enough, I assure you, without running after them. By what means? By their voices, of course. They belong to the court, and the one who spoke of me had a remarkably sweet voice. Ah, your majesty permits yourself to be influenced by flattery. No one will ever say it is a means you make use of. Forgive my stupidity, sire. Come, let us go and look where I told you. Is the passion, then, which your majesty confided to me, already forgotten? Oh, no, indeed. How is it possible to forget such beautiful eyes as Mademoiselle de la Valliere has? Yet the other one has a beautiful voice. Which one? The lady who has fallen in love with the sun, Monsieur de Saint Aignan. Forgive me, sire. Well, I am not sorry you should believe me to be an admirer of sweet voices as well as of beautiful eyes. I know you to be a terrible talker, and tomorrow I shall have to pay for the confidence I have shown you. What do you mean, sire? That tomorrow everyone will know that I have designs upon this little La Valliere. But be careful, Saint Aignan. I have confided my secret to no one but you, and if anyone should speak to me about it, I shall know who has betrayed my secret. You are angry, sire? No, but you understand I do not wish to compromise the poor girl. Do not be afraid, sire. You promise me, then? I give you my word of honor. Excellent, thought the king, laughing to himself. Now everyone will know tomorrow that I have been running about after La Valliere tonight. Then, endeavoring to see where he was, he said, "Why have we lost ourselves?" "Not quite so bad as that, sire." "Where does that gate lead to?" "To Rond Point, sire." "Where we were going when we heard the sound of women's voices?" "Yes, sire, and the termination of a conversation in which I had the honor of hearing my own name pronounced by the side of your majesty's." "You return to that subject too frequently, Saint Aignan." "Your majesty will forgive me, but I am delighted to know that a woman exists, whose thoughts are occupied about me, without my knowledge, and without my having done anything to deserve it. Your majesty cannot comprehend that satisfaction, for your rank and merit attract attention, and compel regard." "No, no, Saint Aignan, believe me or not, as you like," said the king, leaning familiarly upon Saint Aignan's arm and taking the path he thought would lead them to the chateau. "But this candid confession, this perfectly disinterested preference of one who will, perhaps, never attract my attention, in one word, the mystery of this adventure excites me, and the truth is, that if I were not so taken with La Valliere, do not let that interfere with your majesty's intentions, you have time enough before you." "What do you mean?" "La Valliere is said to be very strict in her ideas." "You excite my curiosity, and I am anxious to see her again. Come, let us walk on." The king spoke untruly, for nothing, on the contrary, could make him less anxious. But he had a part to play, and so he walked on hurriedly. Saint Aignan followed him at a short distance. Suddenly the king stopped. The courtier followed his example. "Saint Aignan," he said, "do you not hear someone moaning?" "Yes, sire, and weeping too, it seems." "It is in this direction," said the king. It sounds like the tears and sobs of a woman." "Run!" said the king, and following a bypath, they ran across the grass. As they approached, the cries were more distinctly heard. "Help! Help!" exclaimed two voices. The king and his companion redoubled their speed, and as they approached nearer, the sighs they had heard were changed into loud sobs. The cry of "Help! Help!" was again repeated, at the sound of which the king and Saint Aignan increased the rapidity of their pace. Suddenly, at the other side of a ditch, under the branches of a willow, they perceived a woman on her knees, holding another in her arms who seemed to have fainted. A few paces from them a third, standing in the middle of the path, was calling for assistance. Perceiving the two gentlemen, whose rank she could not tell, her cries for assistance were redoubled. The king, who was in advance of his companion, leaped across the ditch, and reached the group at the very moment when, from the end of the path which led to the chateau, a dozen persons were approaching, who had been drawn to the spot by the same cries that had attracted the attention of the king and M. de Saint Aignan. "What is the matter, young ladies?" said Louis. "The king!" exclaimed Mademoiselle de Montalais, in her astonishment letting La Valliere's head fall upon the ground. "Yes, it is the king. But that is no reason why you should abandon your companion. Who is she?" "It is Mademoiselle de la Valliere, sire." "Mademoiselle de la Valliere?" "Yes, sire. She has just fainted." "Poor child!" said the king. "Quick, quick! Fetch a surgeon." But however great the anxiety with which the king had pronounced these words may have seemed to others, he had not so carefully schooled himself but that they appeared, as well as the gesture which accompanied them, somewhat cold to Saint Aignan, to whom the king had confided the sudden love with which he had inspired him. "Saint Aignan," continued the king, "watch over Mademoiselle de la Valliere, I beg. Send for a surgeon. I will hasten forward and inform Madame of the accident which has befallen one of her maids of honor." And, in fact, while M. de Saint Aignan was busily engaged in making preparations for carrying Mademoiselle de la Valliere to the chateau, the king hurried forward, happy to have an opportunity of approaching Madame, and of speaking to her under a colorable pretext. Fortunately, a carriage was passing. The coachman was told to stop, and the persons who were inside, having been informed of the accident, eagerly gave up their seats to Mademoiselle de la Valliere. The current of fresh air produced by the rapid motion of the carriage soon recalled her to her senses. Having reached the chateau, she was able, though very weak, to alight from the carriage and, with the assistance of Athenais and Montalais, to reach the inner apartments. They made her sit down in one of the rooms on the ground floor. After a while, as the accident had not produced much effect upon those who had been walking, the promenade was resumed. During this time, the king had found Madame beneath a tree with overhanging branches, and had seated himself by her side. "Take care, sire," said Henrietta to him in a low tone. "You do not show yourself as indifferent as you ought to be." "Alas!" said the king, in the same tone, "I much fear we have entered into an agreement above our strength to keep." He then added aloud, "You have heard of the accident, I suppose?" "What accident?" "Oh! in seeing you I forgot I hurried here expressly to tell you of it. I am, however, painfully affected by it. One of your maids of honor, Mademoiselle de la Valliere, has just fainted." "Indeed, poor girl!" said the princess, quietly. "What was the cause of it?" She then added in an undertone, "You forget, sire, that you wish others to believe in your passion for this girl, and yet you remain here while she is almost dying, perhaps, elsewhere." "Ah, madame," said the king, sighing, "how much more perfect you are in your part than I am, and how actively you think of everything." He then rose, saying loud enough for every one to hear him, "Permit me to leave you, madame. My uneasiness is very great, and I wish to be quite certain, myself, that proper attention has been given to Mademoiselle de la Valliere." And the king left again to return to La Valliere, while those who had been present commented upon the king's remark, "My uneasiness is very great." Chapter 42. Recording by Todd.